You know, guys, this is truly my favorite time of year. Not only do we get to experience the beauty of the changing seasons, watching as the leaves change color and pumpkins decorate the neighborhood, but it's also the perfect time to get a little cozy. Maybe snuggle up with that special someone, drink apple cider, and walk hand in hand through a corn maze. It's truly just so picturesque, and yet so unattainable. I don't know about the rest of you, but my fall season has been kind of brutal. I was poisoned by a pumpkin spice latte a couple days ago. The first pumpkin patch I went to had no pumpkins. And then when I tried a second time, it was pouring rain and freezing cold. Oh yeah, and the other day when I went to go buy candy in preparation for the lovely trick-or-treaters, yeah, it was $20 for one bag. And to make matters worse, my loyal pumpkin patch partner is no more. So let's review. I am now alone, bitter, and a newly turned love cynic, which means that I'm the perfect person to review romance books. Yeah, so a couple months ago, I discovered the subgenre to romance, which is fall-themed romance. Now, I'd heard of books like The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, but I really thought that that was like a one-time thing. I didn't know that there was a whole market for fall-themed romance. So naturally, I went down a rabbit hole, and there are so many books that have the words fall or pumpkin in the title. And I actually ended up reading quite a few of them. So I decided that it was only natural for me to get on here and rank and review each one of them. So as a general overview of what this subgenre is, it's essentially like a Hallmark movie. Usually it takes place in some kind of small rural town. You have one character that has been there their whole life, and the other character is usually from like a big city. So usually the two main characters have to work together for some reason. Usually it's like, we have to save the family business, or we have to compete in some kind of fall festival activity. Either way, the forced proximity helps grow their romance and their relationship, but they eventually get into a fight, break off, and then in that absence, they realize that they can't live without the other person. They make up, get married, or otherwise live happily ever after. That is the rough template, but trust me, that each one of the books I read had such a unique take on it. Some of the books that I read had literal, magical, and supernatural elements mixed in. One of the books has a whole murder mystery plot. Other books deal with like infidelity and other like social issues. And some do have very detailed descriptions of activities and tools that might be used in said activities. Yeah, those are the adult titles. I do have young adult and adult on this list, so I will be sure to point out which one is which. But regardless, trust me when I say that whatever you're thinking you're going to be in for when I talk about these books, you will be surprised. So without further ado, hello, welcome back. It is a new day, a new sleigh, and a new video where I have something to say. And today I'm going to be ranking and reviewing fall-themed romance books. First and foremost, I do have to get this out of the way. We have officially hit 10,000 subscribers on the channel. That is really hard to wrap my mind around. I do want to say how grateful I am and how thankful I am for all of you for tuning into my videos every week, engaging, liking, leaving comments. I truly would not be here without you. You all have afforded me so many opportunities that I don't truly think you understand what you've given me. I'm truly indebted to you for all the support you have given me and the channel, and I thought it was only fitting that at this point in my career, crazy, that after all of you have given me so much, that it's time for me to give back. So you may or may not have noticed my cute little sweater. You might have gotten a glimpse of the top, which says pumpkin spice, but that is not all. This I'm very excited about. I'm not gonna lie, in case you're wondering, I did get this on the TikTok shop, but I bought this sweater because first and foremost, it fits so perfectly with the theme of this video. I was like, I cannot record without it. And it also ties in with what I want to do with this video, and specifically the donations that I will be making in honor of hitting 10,000 subscribers. So as I've said already, I am from Chicago. I was born and raised in the area, and I truly would not want to be anywhere else besides here. And as I'm sure many of you have seen and heard, Chicago is struggling right now. The fear and the violence that runs rampant right now truly saddens me. It breaks my heart to see my city turned into a place of chaos. The community in Chicago is truly so inviting, and there's such a solidarity amongst the people that I don't think you could find it anywhere else, especially given the circumstances that we're facing right now. And especially within the Hispanic community of Chicago, and as a Mexican woman that has been so uplifted and supported by my community, it is only fitting and it's only right that now with the platform that I have and the resources that I have, that I give back to that community. So by watching this video and playing through all my ads, you will be helping me to support two different organizations. The first being the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, and the second being the Chicago Street Vendors Fund. So ICER is a nonprofit organization that promotes and supports immigrants and refugees and helps rally for equal rights. Within the last year, they have specifically been reporting on any sightings in local communities of ICE agents, but in their normal day-to-day activities, they not only provide trainings, but they help provide resources to people that are on the path to citizenship. Truly, ICER sets people up for success in the best way possible so that they can pursue the coveted American dream. Now, the Chicago Street Vendor Relief Fund was organized by the Chicago Street Vendors Association. Now, this GoFundMe, which I will be linking in my description below, was created to help street vendors that are affected by the ongoing ICE presence in Chicago. Many vendors are losing their jobs, and so many are afraid to even go outside at the risk of being targeted. So this fund will go towards providing assistance to these vendors to help make up for the loss of income. Now, whether you're from Chicago or you visited, you know street vendors are the lifeblood of this city. So if you've ever enjoyed a tamal from the lady on the corner or an ice cream from the paletero, then you know just how badly we need to support our street vendors. Once again, all the ad revenue from this video will be split amongst these two organizations, and I will be providing links in the description if you want to make a donation for yourself. And I will be sure to share the exact donation amounts on all my social media if you want to stay up to date. And again, if you are unable to make a donation, don't feel bad. You can donate your time by, again, watching this video all the way through. And if I do say so myself, I think it'll be worth the watch. This is going to be something of a rant review. My brain has been melted by so much romance. This is the most romance I've read ever. It's gotten to a point where I feel like I am oozing pumpkin spice, and you do not know how I've had to suffer to read through all these books. You don't know what I've given up, my sanity, my time. And if I had to subject myself to this, then I'm also going to subject you. But it is for a good cause, so I don't feel too bad about it. Anyway, thank you for listening to my message. And once again, thank you for 10,000 subscribers. Now, let's get on with the ranking. So I read a total of 8 books, which are as follows: Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist. There's Pumpkin About You, Falling Like Leaves, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice, Let's Give 'em Pumpkin to Talk About, Fall at Once, and Fall I Want. As you can see, there is a pattern and theme with the titles of these books. You thought I was lying when I said each one has either pumpkin or fall in the title? No. So we have 5 tiers that I'm going to be sorting these books into. Tier number 1, which is like 1 star, we'll say, is Save Me Mariah Carey, which essentially means that I disliked the book so much that I'm actually done with the fall season and I need us to get into winter holiday season. The second tier, which is 2 stars, that is Remove Autumnal from the dictionary. Basically, the books in this tier are like, okay, it wasn't like bad, but it's just a little heavy-handed, either in like the romance, the tropiness of it all, or like the fall aesthetic. Basically, what I'm saying is I am revoking your thesaurus. I'm taking it away from you. Never say autumnal again. Tier number 3 is Pumpkin Spice Lattes Don't Have Real Pumpkin. This is actually a reference to one of the books I'll be reviewing, and the reason that this is number 3 is essentially to say like, it was okay, but like there's no real depth to it. It hits the sweet spot of whatever you need in that moment, but it's still empty. Tier number 4 is I Do Like a Good Corn Maze. I Do Like a Good Corn Maze means like, you know what? Yeah, when in Rome, it's the fall season. Sue me, I like a good romance. I do occasionally like to get hopeful and believe that love exists. And if there were any book to make me feel like that, it would be in the 4th tier. Now, the 5th tier. This is like the best books that I have read. Books that are so good that I would recommend outside the season. This is like S tier for me. This is, you're going to have to drag me out of this pumpkin patch by my Uggs. Meaning that I am so into this book. I am so immersed in whatever this book had to say that I am never going to leave the fall season. I will still be buying up the pumpkin flavored items at my local grocery store until they stop selling them. But anyway, these are our tiers, so let's get into book number 1. The first book I read, which I actually have a copy of, is Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. Now, this is a YA book. I will say it's a little on the younger side. The characters are, I think, 16, 17 in here. If this style looks familiar to you, that's because the same artist that made this made the cover for Icebreaker and all of the books in the Maple Hill series. Now, you can debate about that in the comments and whether or not you feel a certain type of way about an artist making covers for adult and young adult books. Personally, all I'm gonna say is that there's a reason you should read the summary on the back. Rest assured that that book is age appropriate. There is absolutely no spice whatsoever. And honestly, not even a lot of romance, if I'm being honest. But I will get into that in just a second. So this book follows our main character, Lucy Kane, who lives in the scenic town of Briar Glen. Now, this town is super touristy. They get people coming in every fall season because it's surrounded by mountains. There's a lot of changing leaves and colors and whatever. So people from all over the country come to see it in its autumnal glory. So Lucy works at her mom's coffee shop, which is called Cup of Joe. And despite working in a coffee shop and living in a town that seems to only exist in the fall season, she hates pumpkin spice lattes, which, if I can get into this for just a second, already annoys me because her whole reason for hating the pumpkin spice latte is because there's no real pumpkin in it. But if we're going to argue semantics here, then I do have to point out that despite the fact that this drink doesn't have pumpkin, you know what it does have? Pumpkin spice. You know, the literal specific blend of spices that you can buy at the store that on the label says pumpkin pie spice. No one was trying to say that there is pumpkin in the drink. No one's lying to you, girl. And I'm gonna be so bold as to say that if you're complaining about the pumpkin spice latte not having pumpkin in it, and yet you serve a macchiato at this cafe that is bigger than a shot glass, you have no room to argue. You're not serving real drinks either. But I have to remind myself that she's a teenager and fictional and going through that magical phase where she hates everything that's in the mainstream, and I can't really get mad at her. I just do have to be the person to be like, but actually. Anyway, a new guy moves to town by the name of Jack Harper. There is also a very similar pattern where the male love interests have like a first name and a first name last name. Now, Jack's family moved to Briar Glen because they are actually opening up a brand new coffee shop. Okay, already concerning, but it's a coffee shop that's going to be moving in across the street from Cup of Joe, and it's a chain. This coffee shop is called Java Junction, and it's this universe's version of Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, right? So Lucy has initially a crush on Jack, but when she figures out that his family's opening up Java Junction, she hates him. Specifically, she finds out because he goes into Cup of Joe one day and they're striking up a conversation. Everything's going great. Then she realizes that his family actually owns the Java Junction that's about to open up. So when she goes to serve him the slice of pie that he ordered, she throws it in his face. Yeah, she cocked that back full force and hit him in a cafe that is packed full of people. So things start to go downhill for Cup of Joe very fast as Java Junction opens up, and they are quickly hemorrhaging funds. Like, borderline, we need to close the store for good. Because the reason that everyone is going to Java Junction is because Java Junction, oh my God, I'm gonna get sick of myself saying all these words. The reason everyone is going to the other coffee shop is because they serve a pumpkin spice latte and Cup of Joe does not. The reason Cup of Joe does not serve the PSL is because Lucy refuses to let her mom put it on the menu. That is how much she hates the PSL. That's a whole thing in and of itself. So I'll come back to that. But Lucy decides, in light of them losing business and losing customers, that the only way to get everyone back is to create the perfect pumpkin spice latte. So she recruits Jack to help her make this perfect syrup in exchange for him also helping with their social media presence, and Lucy is going to be giving him baking lessons. They start getting closer and developing their friendship, but tensions slowly rise between Cup of Joe and Java Junction, all leading up to a competition between the two coffee shops on who has the best PSL. So that's the spoiler-free summary. Now for the ranking, I'm gonna say that we're gonna go ahead and put this one in autumnal needs to be removed from the dictionary. So we're not starting off on the best foot, but the reason that I put this here is because honestly, the main character, Lucy, is not very likable. Like, no exaggeration, Lucy is just like a very mean person. So her first encounter with Jack, and I'm talking about the first time that they have exchanged words with each other, is when he comes into the coffee shop and he tries to order a pumpkin spice latte, to which she does not say, "Oh, sorry, we don't actually serve that." She says, "No, I'm not making that for you. I refuse." She doesn't offer anything else in replacement, which she does earlier when someone else tries to order a PSL. She's like, "Sorry, we don't have that, but we have this, like, I think it's like a maple drink or whatever." She does nothing resembling customer service with Jack. She does everything but spit in his face for asking for a pumpkin spice latte. I already mentioned the pie throwing incident, but after she, assaults him, she makes him swear to not tell anyone that she did this. To which this poor guy, he agrees. And then when inevitably people find out about this, because again, she did this in broad daylight in a shop full of people, she gets mad at him because they start calling her pie face to make fun of her, which I'm also just like, surely we don't understand how public schools work? Because if someone throws a pie in another person's face, why would you make fun of the person that threw the pie? As far as you're concerned, this girl can also throw a punch. Like, she did not care about doing that to another person. What makes you think she's not also willing to throw hands? So that's already very just like not logical, practical for this book. But then also for her to get so upset over pie face, like, it's not even creative. It doesn't even apply to her because she didn't have pie in her face. So she gets very angry with him. Even her friends are telling her, like, it's not that serious. Like, you just need to relax. And she doesn't. Jack is really just forced to take all of the she throws at him. Like, she is just allowed to be a bad person without facing any consequences, and it's not good. Again, Jack as the male love interest is essentially just a doormat. I thought we were going to get like the perspective of, oh, this guy is like the rich new kid and he's insensitive and he doesn't realize how his family's business is hurting Cup of Joe. But no, he's really nice to Lucy and he's really empathetic and sympathetic to her. In general, he's just like a golden boy. Like, he's very understanding as a character. So there's nothing really to not like about him. And I will say that glancing at the Goodreads reviews, it seems that a lot of people agree that Lucy is just not a compelling lead. Again, she is just very aggressive, not only to her love interest, but also to her own friends. Again, I chalk a lot of it up to age. And obviously, if these were the actions of an adult woman, I would be a little bit more critical. I'm not necessarily trying to absolve her of her actions. I'm more so just saying, like, she's a teenager, so yeah, I get it. Like, they do that. I just wish we got a better balance of like Lucy being nice or otherwise expressing guilt or shame for the things that she's doing and how she's acting. That way we can see that she has more character growth, but really it's just like she lashes out and then like cools off and then the book just continues without acknowledging the harm that she has caused. Plot-wise, I'll say having the main conflict surround creating the perfect pumpkin spice latte is meh. The build up to it is okay, but it does leave a little bit of an emptiness just because it's like everything leads up to an influencer showing up to rank which one has the best pumpkin spice latte, either Java Junction or Cup of Joe. And then when she officially crowns the best pumpkin spice latte, it's just like, okay, and everything goes back to normal. Like, it doesn't do anything to help or harm either business. Like, everyone just kind of goes on with the rest of their lives. I will also note that in this book, there's no kiss. I don't think Jack and Lucy are officially dating by the end of it, which some people on Goodreads were very upset about this. They were like, this is not a romance because they didn't kiss. Consider the fact, kissing is not the end all be all of showing romantic affection. And also, their kids? I'm not gonna sit here as a 24-year-old woman and say, I'm mad I didn't get to see 16-year-olds kiss. I don't know if that's crazy, but some people felt very comfortable saying that on Goodreads. And also because I like killing the mood and making everything serious. See also my Everything But the Spice video. Lucy's hatred of the PSL stems from misogynistic rhetoric. Even though her argument is that it doesn't have real pumpkin, she criticizes the people that do like the pumpkin spice latte. Men are very quick to make fun of women that like the PSL because, hey, if women like, then must be stupid. And there are quite a few women that like to jump on this bandwagon and take any opportunity to punch down on their fellow women just to gain the favor of men under the false notion of having higher standards. So that's really where this rhetoric stems from. And my question is, do we want to perpetuate that in 2025? Like, I thought we were done with the memes making fun of women for liking the PSL. Although not really, because now we just make fun of men that like matcha with the performative male trend. Anyway, all that to say, 2 stars. Remove autumnal from the dictionary, please. Thank you. The next book I will be reviewing is Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist. It's an adult romance with a dual POV and dual narration, following our characters Jordan and Harlow. So Jordan is a witch that runs the local apothecary in the small magical town of Maple Hollow. And yes, I do mean magical, literally. In this world, vampires, witches, werewolves, any kind of mythical creature you can think of exists and lives in Maple Hollow. Now, Jordan's ex-girlfriend Lou died a year ago under a little bit of suspicious circumstances. But in her grief, Jordan brings Lou's spirit back to the real world via a Ouija board, summoning circle type scenario in order for her to get closure. But when Jordan tries to send Lou back, it doesn't work. And they realize that Lou cannot cross over to the other side until she helps Jordan find a new girlfriend. Enter Harlow, a normal human, not magical at all, that moves to Maple Hollow to help her sister run the local coffee shop. When Harlow and Jordan meet, sparks immediately fly, and Lou does everything in her power to push them together. In between their budding romance, Jordan is uncovering the mystery of Lou's death. She died in a car accident under suspicious circumstances, and as Lou's spirit starts to get more unstable and violent, Jordan starts to suspect that this was actually a murder. Harlow ends up helping her with the investigation, and she dives headfirst into this world of magic. Now, I'm gonna put this in, I do love a good corn maze. Now, I was a little on the fence on where I wanted to rank this book, and I think the biggest reason that I was struggling to find my actual rating was because I had technical issues. So the audiobook, as I mentioned, is a dual narration, and one of the narrators, like, the volume is pitched so low. So I was listening to the audiobook, right? And when it would get to this narrator, I can't remember which one it is, but I would like crank the volume up, and then the next narrator was like normal volume. So I would blast my ears every single time. Listening to the audiobook was a very involved experience because I kept having to alter the volume just to keep it at a normal level. So it impacted my reading experience, and it did distract me a little. So I really had to like push that aside and focus on only the book, because that was truly what was lowering my rating initially. I really liked the plot and the premise for this book, since I think out of all the ones I read, this one definitely has like one of the bigger plot premises. Everything else is just like, the plot is in the background. Like, whether or not we accomplish the goal is not really the focus. Truly, we just want to see these characters kiss. But in this book, it's a good blend of both. Like, we want to see the characters end up in their happily ever after, but I also want to find out what happened to Lou. I will say that the blend of the murder mystery plot and the romance was pretty good. There were some times where I felt like it didn't blend well. Like, you would get really long chunks of the romance, and then it was like, oh, I forgot we have a murder mystery, and then it would like kind of jarringly switch to the other plot. But those moments were few and far between. I will say the romance is pretty instant. I wouldn't expect anything less from a book that is of this length. They have an immediate attraction. The relationship moves very fast. So I do wish that there was more of a build-up to their general relationship, like maybe getting to know each other a little bit more, developing a friendship before it evolves into something. But granted, I did read this book before I got into any of the other romance books, so my standards were a little higher. I did find out rather quickly that these fast-paced romances are kind of like the norm. That being said, I still want it to slow down a little bit, but it's nothing out of the ordinary for this genre, I discovered. And I will say that the big fight scene at the end between Harlow and Jordan does feel very authentic, despite the fact, again, as I said, that there wasn't a lot of depth to their relationship at the beginning. The betrayal at the end still feels very authentic and realistic. I will say it did slow down just a tad at the end leading up to the reveal of the killer, but overall I will say that I was still pretty surprised on who it ended up being. The characters are pretty good. I will say they have their own issues. Jordan has commitment problems and Harlow has a bit of an inferiority complex. I think Jordan is the most like fleshed out, like I can understand the commitment issues. I find that with a lot of these fall romances, it's either like they can't commit or no, it's they all can't commit. Or it's like some kind of like abandonment issue, but that's pretty standard and I always like those characters more than the other one. And in this case, Harlow has this idea that she is like the screw up of her family, and unfortunately it seems kind of justified. I mentioned at the beginning that her sister runs a cafe, right? And she moves to Maple Hollow to help her sister, but her help at this cafe is like so counterproductive. Like she almost destroys her sister's business within a matter of days. First, she accidentally uses magic, like a magic talisman or whatever, to let loose a flood of rats in the establishment. Okay, that's just an easy mistake. She's never known about this magic stuff, whatever. Then she gives an allergic reaction to a customer and causes all the vampires in town to boycott the coffee shop. Another accident, whatever. We'll give her some grace. But then there's a moment where this coffee shop gets a daily supply of pastries to sell, right? From the neighborhood werewolf, might I add. And she takes it upon herself, Harlow, again, the person that doesn't own the cafe, takes it upon herself to tell the chef that he needs to make new desserts for the cafe. Because he was sending like pretty standard macarons, croissants, whatever. And she's like, no, you're gonna make me little witch's hat macarons and little broomsticks too, might as well. So she changes the menu of the restaurant without telling her sister. And then when her sister gets mad about it, she's like, oh my God, everyone just thinks I'm a screw up. I was just trying to help. Like I'm the victim. What? No, I understand why her sister was pissed. Like she was reasonably upset. Honestly, I thought we were going to go down the road of like, she was unknowingly being racist to witches. That was just like the logical next step for me. Cause like you gave a vampire an allergic reaction, like almost killed them with nutmeg. So I feel like, yeah, doing the witch's hat broomsticks, like I feel like the next step would be, oh, the witches in town get mad because that's actually very racist and stereotypical. I would have laughed. I would have liked it so much better if that was the next step because it's just like so ridiculous and so funny. I think it was a missed opportunity to say the least. But overall, I think the book was pretty lighthearted. Again, it was a very fast read. And what can I say? I do like a good corn maze. The book is rather spicy. Let's just say certain acts are completed in the public space that is a pumpkin patch on a hay bale. I was a little uncomfortable again just because of the publicness of it all. Like a pumpkin patch is like a very family friendly activity. In my mind, I'm like, how can you also on a hay bale, like straw? Oh my God, no. Anyway, the third book I read was Let's Give 'Em Pumpkin to Talk About. This is another adult romance. It's told in the third person, so we get a good mix of the internal thoughts of the main character and her love interest. So our female main character is Sadie Fox, who is a textile artist that is living in LA. She finds success as an artist to the stars. Her latest project that shot her into stardom is a project in which she color matched a wallpaper to the exact skin tone of an influencer's butt cheek. I am being so serious. I had to read that. So Sadie is called back to her hometown of Pea Blossom, Indiana, because her father has to suddenly up and go to Florida to help her uncle who has just had a stroke. Sadie must now tend to her father's pumpkin farm, but when she arrives, she realizes that it's in complete disarray. Her neighbor, who has for some reason a farm that is dedicated to raising wild hogs, they've all gotten loose and destroyed and ate all of her father's pumpkins. So Sadie has to find a way to revitalize the pumpkins in order for her to enter the Pumpkin Spice Weigh-Off, which is a competition amongst the growers in Indiana where they try to grow the biggest pumpkin. Sadie realizes when she gets to the farm that she has a new neighbor whose name is Josh Thatcher. So Josh is a retired tech millionaire whose new goal in life is to create the perfect genetically modified squash. So he offers to help Sadie by gifting her one of his little pumpkin sprouts, and they kind of just grow a bond from there as they're both competing to grow the biggest pumpkin. So the story follows their relationship leading up to the Spice Pumpkin Weigh-Off. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in remove autumnal from the dictionary. I am a little disappointed about this book. I thought I was gonna like it a little bit more than I did. Plot-wise, I'm gonna say that I think there was a lot of things that we were trying to accomplish that we just quite didn't. On the one hand, we have Sadie, who she's trying to revitalize this pumpkin and grow something that she can enter into the contest. And then on the other hand, she's trying to rediscover her love for the arts because she's fallen out of it after the success of her butt cheek wallpaper. And then she's also dealing with her family issues because she's had a rocky relationship with her dad because he thinks that she's just like an emo troublemaker. And her mom, who left her as a child and ran off to have another family and yet is still living in the same town. On top of all that, we still have the romance between Josh and Sadie. So needless to say, it's a lot. I think the conflicts at times don't really mesh together well. And again, kind of like what I said with the last book, at times it feels like we're just cycling through each plot line. And if there's ever a moment where we've stayed off of one for too long, we just like immediately switch to that. As for the characters, I will say similar to Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice, Sadie has a black cat personality, which I normally really like. But in this case, instead of the black cat personality just being someone that's like a little reclusive and shy, Sadie just comes off as being mean. Like there's one particular moment where she's staying over at Josh's house when a tornado has ripped through town and destroyed her house. So she has no choice but to stay with him. And there's one morning where she like just up and leaves the house and she left his kitchen in disarray. Specifically, she left all the cabinets open. So in response, Josh rigs the cabinets with some kind of computerized system that after a certain time limit of these cabinets being open, they shut automatically. And she gets so mad about this. She's like, you're trying to change who I am. You're saying I'm such an inconvenience for you for leaving your cabinets open? Yes. Later on, I will give her some credit. She thinks back to this moment and she's like, ugh, I like shouldn't have blown up at him. Like that was really unnecessary of me. But like he literally worked around her mess and she still got mad about it. A better person would have been like, hey, can you not leave my cabinets open, and just forced her to be better about it. But no, he's like, I noticed that you leave my cabinets open. Let me fix the cabinets. Because really, why aren't they just closing on their own? On that note, Josh is a ball of sunshine, which means that anything she throws at him, he just takes, no questions asked. And the pattern I'm recognizing is that me as a person, I just don't like that dynamic. When I think like grumpy ex ball of sunshine, like I don't think one person is mean and the other person just takes it, which unfortunately is what I think a lot of people interpret that as. Grumpy is just supposed to be like the person that's not really social. They're kind of a recluse, they're introverted, and the ball of sunshine is just like extroverted and really joyful or whatever. Like, where have we strayed? Am I not understanding what grumpy ex sunshine means? Because to me, this isn't it. And I really don't like this dynamic between characters because, again, it just feels mean. And I used to be the person that was like, oh yeah, being mean is my love language. Not like this. I also don't like Josh. And this is why I also rank it in that second tier as opposed to like being higher. He is a tech millionaire that the book cannot decide whether or not he is actually ethical. Like we meet him and he's trying to make the squash because he's like, you know what? When I genetically modify it, it's going to feed a lot of hungry people. Like it's going to be hardy and fortified or whatever. And essentially his goal with this is to battle the hunger crisis, which Great, love it. But then we learn that his ultimate dream life goal is to buy out all the surrounding farmers so that he can grow his genetically modified squash, one of which being Sadie's father. He has been actively trying to buy out that man since he moved in. So they let him be an evil tycoon of industry for just long enough to milk the miscommunication trope until the book needs him to be likable again. They always redeem him immediately in the next chapter, where he'll go from like, oh yeah, I want to buy up all this land so I can use it for my own purposes. And then in the next moment, he's like, of course, I would set up the people I buy out for life and make sure that they have retirement funds. I wouldn't just take their land, which is also just an ick for me in books because, again, I'm too woke, so I understand that there's actually no such thing as an ethical billionaire. So yeah, I unfortunately know better. So I can never get down with the super rich love interest. As for the romance, I will say that they don't really have a big conflict. A lot of these books have like a big fight right at the end that they have to make up from, but most of the book is really just like Sadie pushing him away. I will say there's also not really a great build up to their romance. Like they have an immediate sexual attraction, which is fine, whatever. And Sadie's whole character arc is her learning that she is capable of love and being loved. But leading up to that, like when she realizes, yes, I love Josh, she is like so cold emotionally to him. Like we don't really get a good idea of how she feels romantically and emotionally about him until the moment she's like, I love you. So it really just kind of like flips on a dime. And also, I'm sorry, their first spicy scene together, it doesn't do it for me. So it starts, they're in the library. They don't actually do it in the library. Let me just preface that. They're in the library. The tornado hits the town. They have to go to the tornado shelter and she has a panic attack. He tries to help her through said panic attack and they kiss in the shelter. Okay, they then go back to his house after the storm is over. She realizes that her house is destroyed and he invites her to stay. So whatever, they have dinner, they call it a night. And after that kiss, like they haven't done anything. They've talked a little bit about their backstories, but nothing beyond the kiss has happened yet. And without getting demonetized, let me just say, Sadie is lying in bed and she's like, you know what? There's a particular itch on my back that I can't reach. So as she is laying in the guest bed in Josh's home, she calls him. This is the middle of the night, by the way. She calls him and asks if he has any tools, perhaps a back scratcher, that she could borrow. To which he says yes, and with no hesitation, she goes into his room and demonstrates the proper back scratching technique. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, but that was so genuinely cringy to me just because the scene is very transactional. There is nothing of substance. Also because like as she's setting up to demonstrate for him, she's like, no strings. So it's very like cold, mechanical, no emotional buildup. It's just like a breakneck turn of events. And it was not for me. Honestly, it wasn't like that interesting for me. It wasn't like the story wasn't compelling. The romance wasn't compelling. The characters weren't compelling. Honestly, I think we could put this in Save Me Mariah Carey. You know what? I'm gonna change that. I think we can put this in Save Me Mariah Carey. Now that I'm talking about it, I don't think there's anything about the book that I really liked, which is unfortunate. But with that being said, moving on to the next book. This is Falling Like Leaves. Now, this book is a YA romance, but it is a bit on the older side. These characters are in their senior years, so we're going to say 17 to 18. Now, this book follows our main character, Ellis, who is forced to pick up everything and move from New York to Bramble Falls after her parents announce that they're getting a divorce. Ellis is not happy about this in the least because she has a life plan. She just got an internship at her father's company. She was on the track to apply for Columbia. She has her entire life scheduled out to the minute. This is not a part of her plans. She does not want to go to Bramble Falls. Now, she used to go there because that's the town her mother's from. She used to go there every single summer. But for the last 3 years that she's been in high school, she has not gone back. So Ellis is counting down the days until she can finally go back to New York. So until then, she'll have to learn to survive. She clings on to her cousin who's around the same age. She makes some new friends. And overall, she's starting to get acclimated to her life in in Bramble Falls. But when she first arrives, she runs into an old childhood friend. The last summer she was in Bramble Falls, she spent the entire time with her friend Cooper Barnett. Now Cooper, upon seeing her for the first time in 3 years, suddenly hates her. He is cold and basically ignores her anytime they're in the same room, and yet they can't seem to avoid each other. The town is small, and Ellis has no idea why he's treating her this way. So the story follows Ellis as she's trying to get used to her new life and rekindle her friendship with Cooper. Now, hands down, no questions asked, this is absolutely going to go into the category of you're gonna have to drag me out of this pumpkin patch by my Uggs. Guys, let me tell you, I was not expecting to get a book that I liked so genuinely until I read this one. I was so surprised at how much I love this book, but truly, I'm so glad that I found it. Out of all the pumpkin themed books that I read for this video, like this, there's no competition. Hands down, this is absolutely the best. The storyline flows together so beautifully. Like, there's a lot of things that we're juggling. Again, Ellis has her own struggles with her family, trying to rekindle this friendship with Cooper. I forgot his name for a second, sorry. She's also navigating these new friendships at school, her inferiority complex, and wanting to be like a people pleaser and just like trying to succeed at all costs. Like, there's so many things we're juggling, but this manages to blend them all together so beautifully, because at the core of all these conflicts, it all stems from Ellis's deep desire to be a people pleaser. She truly only lives for other people. Specifically, she only lives to please her father. Her whole life she has spent making decisions that would make her dad happy. She has truly never done anything just for herself. And as a result, she spends most of her time studying. She alienates herself and she can't maintain friendships or even relationships. So we see how this further strains the relationships that she's trying to build in Bramble Falls. We also see how her parents' divorce weighs very heavily on her, and specifically how she resents her mother for not trying to work it out with her dad. Again, she just holds her dad in such high regard that she assumes that whatever's going wrong with them, they can just figure it out. And they should. But the book is quick to show us that her dad is not the doting parent that Ellis sees him as. Throughout her stay in Bramble Falls, which again is only a couple of months, he dodges all of her calls. She cannot get a hold of this man. He is constantly blowing her off, and the only time he gives her the time of day is when he's trying to set up a college interview for her. Because she doesn't want to go to Columbia. No. That's not her dream. Her father wants her to study at Columbia, and specifically study journalism. So we see how this relationship really impacts her, and the separation from her father allows her to get some kind of clarity. Slowly, as she starts getting more comfortable in Bramble Falls, she spends more time with her friends and actually gets to enjoy the wonders of adolescence that she was previously denying herself. Now, in addition to this, I will say that the characters are the most fully fleshed out characters out of all the books I read for this video. They have so much depth, especially Ellis. Oh my God, I love that girl. She is such a flawed character. There's so many moments that I was reading the book and I was literally like distressed because of the decisions she was making. I'm literally with my audiobook staring at nothing and I'm like, no, please, Alice, don't do this. Like, that is how invested in the book that I was. Because she's so driven and focused on her future, she can come across as being selfish and insensitive to the people around her. She doesn't follow through on her promises, she puts her relationships on the back burner, and we see the consequences of her doing this. Anytime she treats a character badly, whether it's her mom, her friends, or Cooper, we see her face consequences, which honestly is a very low bar to clear to have a compelling character, and yet it's a bar that a lot of these books don't really pass. I will say Ellis is probably like the gold standard for how you should have a flawed character in a book. I'm gonna assign this as reading material. If you want to have a flawed character, read this book. Additionally, we do have Cooper, who is also flawed, but his main issue is with abandonment. He's angry at Ellis because she ghosted him after the last summer that they spent together. He has not heard from her in 3 years. Again, because she's so focused on her goals that she didn't even realize she forgot to text him back. Even as they rebuild their friendship, he's still skeptical of her because she's pretty skittish. She's flighty. The minute that something goes wrong, she runs back to New York. One one of my favorite moments in this book, which is somehow satisfying and still heartbreaking at the same time. It's a moment when Ellis finds out that her mom has put an offer in on a house in Bramble Falls. Because up until this point, she was letting loose, having fun, but it was all with the knowledge that she was going to go back to New York. When she finds out her mom has bought this house, she's like, oh my God, we're gonna stay here forever. No, I can't do that. So she freaks out and tries to run back home to New York. She says goodbye to Cooper, and he's like, you can't possibly be running away again. I'm not gonna let you leave. Now at this point, they are officially boyfriend and girlfriend, like they have admitted their feelings for each other, and he is someone that is important to her. So he's like, Ellis, if you leave, we're done. Because she doesn't even give him any time to try to talk her down from the ledge. She's like, I'm leaving now. She's in a state of distress. She's very emotional, so it's understandable. But he is also upset, and he tells her, if you leave, we're done. And she's like, okay. And she leaves. But then when she gets to New York, when she gets to her apartment, she realizes that her dad's not there. And then shortly after she arrives, he walks in, and this whore, he is with another woman. And Ellis finds out that the reason her parents are getting a divorce is because her dad had an affair. The reason he hasn't been answering her calls is because he's been with the affair partner. So she is so upset that she runs back to Bramble Falls and immediately goes to apologize to Cooper. But when she shows up at his house and tries to explain, and she's like, sorry, let's get back together, my bad. He's like, no, you left. I told you, if you left, we were done. We're done. And he reads her to filth on everything that she's ever done, how selfish she can be, how she didn't even give him time to try and talk to her. She just made decisions and didn't care about the consequences, and now she has to face them. Again, this moment was so heart-wrenching, but it's something that needed to happen for Ellis to have her full character arc. Up until this point, people have just really been indulging her. She's been able to make amends with the people that she hurts. And make amends is really just people forgive her because they're like, okay, yeah, well, let's just move on. This is the first time where she just doesn't immediately get what she wants. And in order for her to win Cooper back, she has to prove that she's committed to him. There is so much depth to this. As individuals, they are so three-dimensional, and then in the relationship it just gets even more oh my God, there is so much yearning on top of that. Oh my God. Listen, when it comes to romance, the people yearn for yearning. This has the perfect mix of yearning and actual satisfaction from seeing them together. We haven't done it like this in a very long time. And this was truly my wake-up call that this is what we were missing. Because trust, even though this is YA, the romance is still spectacular. Of course, it is age appropriate. Nothing goes beyond kissing. But there are discussions on safe sex practices. And they did it in a way that is age appropriate, gets the point across, and is still really humorous. It's truly so beautiful the way that they implemented it. I have no notes. Nothing could have been better about this book. I cannot recommend this book enough. I love it so much. Falling Like Leaves, 5 stars. You're gonna have to drag me out of this pumpkin patch by my Uggs. I never want to leave the fall season because of this book. Next on the docket, we have the famous, the critically acclaimed, I actually don't know if it is, but I just know a lot of girls talk about it on TikTok, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Yeah, you thought I was gonna review fall-themed romances without talking about this book? Absolutely not. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe is iconic. It follows our main character, Jeannie, who is a city girl. But this city girl is looking for a quiet life in the suburbs. She used to work as an executive assistant for a big CEO, but one day, he has a heart attack and dies, and she finds his body, and it's a bit of a wake-up call. She doesn't want the same fate for herself, so she's like, I need to slow down in the nice, beautiful pastures that make up Dream Harbor. It's perfect timing because her aunt wants to go on a little trip, but her aunt passes down her coffee shop, the beloved Pumpkin Spice Cafe, to her niece, Jeannie. Within her first few days staying at the apartment above the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, Jeannie realizes that there's some weird noises going around at night. In the wee hours of the early morning, Jeannie hears something rustling in the alley and goes out with a bat, only to find a handsome farmer. Logan is a Dream Harbor local who does deliveries to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe for little gourds and pumpkins or whatever. So he sees her with a bat and is like, please don't kill me. So they have a good laugh about it, but Logan is quick to leave. He's a bit of a recluse, again, grumpy, black cat personality, if you will. He does not like being in public places. He likes moving in the dark of night. But when he sees that Jeannie is new in town and that she's a little spooked about these noises that she's been hearing, he helps her get settled. He invites her to a town hall meeting and somehow gets roped into a stakeout to figure out what's been making noise. So the book follows their relationship alongside Jeannie trying to figure out what's been going wrong at the cafe. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this in. Pumpkin spice lattes don't have real pumpkin. I will say, in terms of the plot, there is a very clear and evenly paced progression of it, because it starts with Jeannie hearing these noises and people are quick to say like, oh, it's probably like a raccoon or a possum or something. She realizes that it's actually a stray cat that's been like moving around in the alley, but then the noises don't stop. And there's a progression as things get more and more serious. The appliances in the cafe start breaking, the power goes out, someone breaks her window. So it progresses like pretty steadily up until the reveal. And then the reveal is so empty. The book even acknowledges, like, it's so self-aware that the reveal is so unsatisfying, like it's crazy. Essentially, things vamp up, right? Like it gets to a point where there is property damage and then Jeannie just kind of stumbles upon one of her employees messing with the power or whatever. So it's very underwhelming, but again, the focus of this book is not the mystery, it's the romance. So let's talk about it. Jeannie is admittedly a little flat as a character. She has the whole arc where she's like, okay, well, I don't want to die of a heart attack, so I need to slow down. And she tries to tell us that she's like a new Jeannie. Like the version of herself that worked as an executive assistant is not the version of herself that we're seeing. But the only reason that I struggle to understand this is because we never get a good idea of how she used to be. We get a lot of tell and not show. And honestly, like she stays pretty consistent throughout the book. Like she's very like sunshine, positive, just like a very joyful person. So her character arc is just like pretty flat throughout most of the book. Like she doesn't really go through any major changes as a character. The only character that does, however, is her love interest, Logan. Now, Logan is more fleshed out because he has those abandonment issues that I mentioned earlier. So he had an ex-girlfriend that was from out of town that he was madly in love with her. So madly in love, in fact, that he tried to propose to her in front of the whole town at the Christmas tree lighting ceremony, mind you. So he gets down on one knee in front of the entire town, mayor included, and she says no. So he was publicly humiliated, on top of the fact that he already has a track record of being abandoned because I think one of his parents died and then the other one left him. So he's been an orphan and he's been practically raised by the town, to the point that when Jeannie shows up and people see like the chemistry between them, the townspeople, specifically like Logan's friends, are like, don't date him. Please do not get near him. Like, he is wounded. Don't mess with him. So they have kind of like a forbidden romance. And honestly, I think that was like the most realistic aspect of their relationship, where we can see that Jeannie is very obviously attracted to him, but she's like, no, like, I don't want to bring mess into his life, especially if he's still struggling, because she finds out about the proposal and she's like, oh my God, this poor damaged man. I don't want to make things worse for him just because I think he's attractive. Like, I can't wreck his life just because I want a little action. Like, I am better than that as a person. That I feel like was a very adult and mature thing to do. I just really liked that that was an aspect of their romance. And we do see how Logan's abandonment issues take a toll on their relationship, because inevitably when they start like kind of dating, not really officially, Jeannie starts wanting more. Like, she wants to make it official. She wants like that label on it, and he is like, no. And we see how that causes tension. So it does make it a bit more compelling, but I think it would have been a lot better if Jeannie just had more to her character. I will say the romance is pretty cute, lighthearted. There are spicy scenes for sure. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's like a 3. I don't think it's nearly as crazy as some of these other ones. Overall, nothing in the book is inherently bad, and it is a very lighthearted read. I think it's just Jeannie, and then the reveal of who was messing with the cafe. Like, if those were just like a bit better, I would rank it higher. Otherwise, like, it was a fun read. Like, I liked it. I don't have any like major complaints, but you know, it gave what it said it would, but I still wanted more, and therefore pumpkin spice lattes don't have real pumpkin. Next book, there's pumpkin about you. Initially, I was not going to read this book. I found it after I had already curated my list. But the reason that I wanted to read it was because this was the first cover. Sad, I know. This was the first cover out of all the books that I picked that had a person of color. And I was like, oh, okay. We have some diversity. Finally. Initially, when I was picking these books, I wasn't like holding out hope that there would be a lot of diversity. Just because, you know, something about small towns in the middle of nowhere, that doesn't scream to me that people of color or otherwise diverse people would live there. I was pleasantly surprised, actually, side note, about the diversity of a lot of these books. Again, a lot of these didn't have like central, like main love interest diverse characters. So this was the first one that really did, and that's why I wanted to read it. So there's Pumpkin About You follows Wren Southwick, which is how they pronounced it in the audiobook. I don't know if that's the actual pronunciation, but she is a party planner who is trying to organize a party for her best friend who's turning 30 years old. She specifically wants to plan it at a local farm that is run by the Finch family. Wren is recently single and she's in a bit of a rough patch with her business, so she's really hoping that this will take off and bring her back into the mainstream. So she goes to visit the Finch family farm and realizes that it's actually in a bit of a disarray. It is run by the Finch brothers, mainly August. Now, the main thing we learn about August, like almost immediately about him, is that he is autistic. He took over the farm from his father, who moved to Las Vegas to marry a random woman. Wren convinces August to repair their farmhouse so that she can use it as the party space. So the book follows as they go through this project of renovating the farmhouse and of course the romance between Wren and August. I know I just said that I wanted to read this book because it was diverse, so just know how much it pains me to say that I'm going to put this in Save Me, Mariah Carey. Now, the biggest reason that I did not like this book was ironically because of the characters. Starting with August. Okay, so I'm not going to speak to the representation of autism and autistic people because I am not someone that has autism. I don't know anyone personally that has autism. So I cannot speak to how good the representation is or how accurate it is. The one thing I will say about August is that he is mean. Now, the book is sure to explain that August is often perceived as mean just because he doesn't like fluff up his way of talking. His tone of voice is like flat, he's very direct as a person, and other people in the town often perceive him as being mean. And that's not why I'm saying he's mean, because the main selling point between these two characters, between their romance, is that they like argue, like that's their banter, that they're a little like aggressive with each other. But his banter includes calling her an idiot.
And you have an incomplete barn. What the hell could you have gained? I gained you, idiot.
Like, that's not someone that is just being blunt and direct. That's not someone that is just like misinterpreting the situation. That's intentionally malicious. Like, idiot is such a charged word. There's no way that you can call someone an idiot without it being mean. And their whole relationship is built on them arguing. The book acknowledges that these characters don't know how to be around each other when they're not screaming and at each other's throats. Which, I don't know, call me crazy. That's not compelling to me. There's also a lot of references to Wren's weight. There's a running gag for some reason where Wren will say to August like, oh, are you calling me fat? And then he will just give her a very like scientific, sterile answer. Like there's one moment where she's leaning on his desk and he's like, don't lean on it, you're gonna break it. And she's like, oh, are you calling me fat? And he's like, scientifically, no, this desk has a weight limit and you will break it. Now, if you're asking if I personally think you're fat, then no. This happens so many times in the book. And again, I'm just like, why? Because call me crazy, but like, and what if he was calling you fat? Is that bad? Do you think being fat is a bad thing? Do you think fat and ugly are synonyms? Because surprise, they're not. Once again, I am simply too woke, so I will never like the like, oh, you're not fat, you're beautiful trope with male love interest. There's also a very weird scene in this book that ends up becoming a huge pivotal conflict. For some reason, we spend so much time on this scene when Ren is walking about in town and some random lady, elderly, geriatric lady, comes up to her because she has nothing better to do than to ruin someone's day. And she's like, "You're unhygienic." And Ren is like, "What are you talking about?" And some nice passerby or whatever is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Ren. You got your period and you're actually bleeding through your clothes actively right now." And it upsets Ren so much that she self-isolates. I'm like, oh my God, people bleed. Why is this such a focus of the book? Why are we spending so much time on this? Because then August has to come knight in shining armor and he's like, "I heard you're sick. I heard you weren't feeling well." And she has to be like, "I just had my period, August." Also, I will just say that the whole premise of the book is not very compelling. Ren forces August to take on the burden of renovating this barn because she wants to. Let me explain the whole setup to this book, right? August is a pumpkin farmer, right? He works on this farm with his brother. The farm is already struggling financially because his dad took all the money to run to Las Vegas to get married. So they're already not doing good. August had to fire a lot of farm hands. It's only him and his brother. August recently broke his arm. So he is only at 50% capacity to work. So they're already stretched thin. He already expresses that they're not getting orders out on time. Then Ren shows up out of nowhere and she's like, "You're gonna renovate this barn for me." And he's like, "Why would I do that?" And she's like, "Well, you could use it for other events, but like you need to renovate it within the next 30 days so that I can use it." Because she's supposed to be a party planner, right? And like a good one. And God forbid, a party planner should have a backup plan. So when she saw this barn and saw that it was in disarray, her first thought wasn't, "Oh, let me go find somewhere else." It was, "You're gonna fix the barn for me." And he says yes, which is already annoying because Ren, like, oh my God, how dare you? Like, this is a random stranger. How dare you make demands of him? And then for August, grow a backbone, my guy. Because he says through the whole like thought process of him doing the barn, he's like, "Oh, I hate this like, the faster she gets off my farm, the better, but I'm gonna do it. I already know I'm gonna do it because she's hot and I'm a man." Overall, the relationship is very choppy. Like, these characters don't like each other. They essentially just hate. Needless to say, it's not compelling. It doesn't make me feel cozy. And honestly, like, the fall themes were not there. Like, if they weren't on a pumpkin farm, I wouldn't know that it was a fall themed romance. Anyway, moving on. The next book that I will be reviewing is Fall at Once. So Fall at Once is about our main character, Maddie, who is temporarily moving back to Cozy Creek. She used to live there with her sisters, her mom, and her dad, but her parents ended up getting divorced because her dad cheated on her mom, and they moved all the way to, I think it was Colorado, whatever. Another big city. So they move away. But Maddie's grandma twisted her ankle, so she needs to go back to Cozy Creek to help her. She also has a second nefarious reason because, get this, Maddie has recently broken up with her boyfriend after 5 years of being together because he has commitment issues and refused to propose to her. That is such a crazy specific premise. Like, oh my God, the way that that book found itself into my lap has to be divine intervention. I'm sure some deity is laughing their ass off right now having put that book in my lap. Not that it pertains to me in any kind of way. Like, that would be so crazy. Because, like, truly, like, what is the coincidence of picking up a book that is literally your life story? It's not. It's not. So she temporarily moves back to Cozy Creek and runs into the boy next door by the name of Cole. Now, Cole is 8 years older than Maddie, and at this point, they're both in their 30s. Cole is a recently single father. He used to be married to his high school sweetheart, but they ended up getting a divorce because she cheated on him with his best friend. They have 2 children together, and now they co-parent, but he still lives in Cozy Creek. He runs into Maddie, and sparks fly. So the book follows them as Maddie is helping out her grandma running her little bakery. Maddie is also helping Cole plan a fall event as a fundraiser for the local fire station. Because did I mention Cole is the fire chief of Cozy Creek? Listen, I am going to admit that the only reason I picked up this book is because there is a firefighter on the cover. Listen, I get it. What can I say? I'm just a girl. Surprisingly, and yet no question, I'm going to go ahead and put this book and you're gonna have to drag me out of this pumpkin patch by my Uggs. Similar to Falling Like Leaves, the biggest selling point of this book for me was the characters. Their backstories are very compelling, definitely not for any personal reasons, like this is purely me just being like an objective reviewer. I really like the dynamic of having these people that are well into adulthood try to navigate a relationship, especially with the extenuating factors of Cole having children, being recently divorced, Maddie being freshly out of a relationship. Like, it definitely put an interesting spin on their relationship. You can see how these two people are hesitant to be with each other, and yet they're very mature and responsible about the whole thing. I think what really appeals to me is just like how authentic and real it is. Like, this is something that real people navigate, right? Because yes, it still plays into like the tropey romance of it all, and I do enjoy it, but like the conversations they have about their relationship, about their feelings, like it's all very like mature, and just like, I just really appreciate the authenticity of it. And I think that's what really deepens their connection, themselves as characters for me, and truly just what kept me so engaged throughout the whole book and made me want to keep reading. Now, I will say that I read an advanced reader copy of this, so I don't know if any of these details have changed. This book does come out the 28th. By the time I post this, it'll already be published, so go check it out for yourselves. The one thing I will say, and I don't know if this has changed, in the version that I read, there's a scene where Cole's daughter, I think her name is Natalie, yeah, Nat, something like that. She gets into a fight with her mom, and they're arguing about her going to some homecoming dance. Nat gets upset and points out that her mother has like a second family or something, or that she cheated on her dad. She says something to that effect. Her mom gets so mad that she slaps her own child across the face in the middle of the street. And what I don't like about this scene, because at first I was already like aghast, I was so surprised. The thing I don't like is that after she does this, Cole still allows her to be a part of her child's life. Yes, they go to therapy, and yes, they talk about it, but the person we see Cole as, like a very fierce protector, like he is truly a hero through and through. To think that he would then also be the kind of person to just let this woman back into his child's life, like without any kind of guardrails, without any supervision, that is hard to believe for me. I would imagine that he would be very hesitant to allow her back into his daughter's life. Like, hitting your child is a very serious offense, and I feel like they take it a little too lightly. I argue that there should have been some kind of separation. Like, he gets them separated in the moment because obviously they're not living together, and they start going to therapy, but I feel like we don't put a really big emphasis on it, and we don't really then get to see how the mom has changed and what would make Cole think that she wouldn't do it again. And I will say, like, that is like the biggest thing that I don't like about the book. Otherwise, I truly enjoy it. Also, the party planning part of the book, which is like supposed to be the main plot, is not. There are 2 sessions where they are actively planning this party. Otherwise, like they even say in the book, that the party has already been planned. So Maddie doesn't really have to do anything other than like take sexy pictures of the firefighters for a calendar, which I'm not complaining. But if we were going to try to have a plot, like commit to it a little bit more. So we didn't really follow through, but it, again, the focus of the book is romance, not necessarily the plot. So I will say, if you just kind of want a little good fluffy romance that is spicy, I'm gonna call this a 4 for sure. I would say that this is the book for you. Now, finally, for the last book I will be reviewing, which is Fall I Want. And honestly, I'm going to say I'm not done. As you can see, my bookmark is here. I haven't finished the book. I'm on the fence on whether or not I want to finish it. I'm tempted to not finish it because I don't particularly like it. Tentatively, I'm going to put this book in Save Me, Mariah Carey. Now, the reason that this book and the second one are on such opposite ends of the spectrum is because, first of all, despite the fact that they're in the same series, they are written by different authors, which I didn't know until after I read the second book. I was like, wait a minute, this is like a completely different writing style. Something is different. Yeah, it's the author. Now, the thing that I don't like about this book so far, and I read far enough to know that it's not going to go away, is that there's like a magical element to this one that I didn't really like. So as a basic summary, we have our 2 main characters. This is Autumn. Yeah, we're very on the nose. already. And this guy, who is Zane Alexander, but occasionally goes by Alex. So his aliases include Zane, Alex, Alexander, Alex Alexander, and Zane Alexander. That's not confusing at all because he's still the love interest, so his last name still has to be a first name. Again, this is an uncorrected proof, so I don't know how they did it in the final version, so I'm just going off of what I have. But the thing that I primarily don't like about this is that there's a character in the book, and it's his sister, and I think her name's Harper, and she can like tell the future, like she's psychic or something, and she essentially predicted that they were going to find each other. Autumn also has this little character trait where she's essentially been dreaming about the love of her life and gave him the nickname, can you guess what it is? Mr. Dreamy. Definitely not Mick Dreamy though. And by some miracle, Zane looks exactly like Mr. Dreamy. So essentially, they're fated mates, and in any kind of book, I don't like that. Like, I like when characters have more agency about the people they end up with. I don't like when it's just like predetermined. On top of the fact that this whole book, the main trope that they're trying to sell us is fake dating. Like, it is fake to no one. Part of the trope for fake dating is that like there are some boundaries between the two people, right? Where they're like, we're just doing this for show. Like, we're not like, yes, we'll hold hands and kiss maybe, but like we'll try not to, whatever. Like, there is some pushback. The only people that they are lying to is themselves. Like, even when they're not in front of other people, like trying to pass off this fake dating, he's saying like, I'm gonna marry you. That's not fake dating. I'm sorry. Like, they are professing their love to each other and being like an actual couple that it's so ridiculous to even try and pass this off as fake dating. It is so not. Like, just let the people be together. I'm like, how are we failing to deliver on the fake dating trope? This whole genre is based on delivering on tropes. How are we still missing the bar? That's what makes me upset. Like, at this point, there is nothing driving the story because it's supposed to be like, oh, we have to put on a show for her ex-boyfriend and his ex-girlfriend. But what show is there to put on? You guys are in love with each other because we already established that your weird psychic sister already said you were going to end up with each other. You're already basically proposing to her. I'm not even halfway through this book and they're talking about getting married. Like, that is not fake dating. So for that reason and that reason alone, we are in Save Me, Mariah Carey. Also, I don't like the main dude, Zane, because there's a part in the book, and again, I don't know how this changes in the final version, where they're at a restaurant with each other and the hostess sees him and sees that he's attractive, right? And literally all she does is give him the like up and down, and he calls her a bitch. Like, that is such a crazy reaction. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Can a girl not look? Like, she finds you attractive. How is she supposed to know that this is your girlfriend? Like, that could be your sister. I don't know. He tried to claim that the hostess disrespected Autumn. All she did was look. Like, that's a service worker. Have some damn respect. And again, his character, he's the billionaire, and there are no ethical billionaires. So when he just throws around all this money, it doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't, because I'm like, where'd you get that money? Who did you step on to get to where you are now? And that is our final book for this review. As you can see, we don't really have a good spread of all these books. I'm gonna say for the most part, I didn't like most of them, except the 2 5 stars. I have squeezed out the last drop of pumpkin that I could possibly squeeze out of this season. In case you didn't know, like, I'm someone that genuinely likes pumpkin. I am the annoying person that goes to the store and buys up all the pumpkin spice flavored stuff. I like the pumpkin spice creamer, the cookies, the oatmeal. Like, I am truly just a sucker for pumpkin spice. I really enjoy it. So know that I mean it when I say, I think I'm done. I think I've had too much. But let me know in the comments if any of you have read any of these books, what you think, if you agree, disagree. I will say that I think I'm a little tapped out when it comes to romance. I think I need a palate cleanser. So if you guys have any non-romance books to recommend me, please drop them in the comments. I just need to not read romance for a hot second. But anyway, yeah, that's the end of the video. If you liked it, please be sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe if you haven't already. You can also follow me on all my social media at Listen to Kristen on TikTok, Instagram, and BlueSky. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I am coming out with my own children's series, which is called The Magical Morrisons. Be sure to add it to your want to read lists on Goodreads. There's also an arc available of Love Potion Commotion, which you can check out on NetGalley. And of course, if you want, no pressure, you can check out my pre-order links that I'll also have in the description below. And once again, you can also check out my description for links to the Chicago Vendors Relief Fund and ICER. Well, this was fun. Thank you for coming on this wild ride with me, and I hope you liked the video. So with that, I am going to leave this video here, and I will see you in the next one. Let me know what you think about the audio quality. I don't know if it's any different. It's been recording the whole time, so at least nothing is broken on my computer side. I wonder how many times I said pumpkin in this video. I guess we'll see. Anyway, thank you. I'll see you in the next one.